My blind date wasn't just bad, it was a nightmare. He wasn't just broke, he was cruel. But the evening took a nosedive when my biggest rival at work walked in, a nasty smirk spreading across her face. Of course, they were in on it together. I was being set up for a full-scale public humiliation. What I didn't know was that the man watching from the corner of the room wasn't just some guy. He was the most powerful CEO in the city, and he was about to turn my entire life upside down. That day had started with a tiny flicker of hope, something I hadn't felt in a long time. My name is Alara, and for the last 3 years, my life had been an endless grind. I'm a junior designer at a cutthroat architectural firm, pouring my soul into every project, fueled by stale coffee and the distant dream of one day opening my own small studio, a place where my creativity wouldn't be strangled by corporate budgets and massive egos. My friends were tired of seeing me buried in blueprints and decided to set me up on a blind date. "He's charming. He's a real go-getter," they said. His name was Marcus. His profile picture showed a guy with a confident smile, casually leaning against a sports car that, looking back, was definitely a rental. For the first time in forever, I let myself get excited. I picked out my best dress, a simple navy blue sheath, and even splurged on a new red lipstick that felt like a promise. The restaurant was one of those dimly lit, super expensive places. My heart was doing this nervous little flutter as I walked in. I found him already there, impatiently scrolling on his phone. "Ilara?" he asked, without even standing up. He just gestured to the chair. "You're 5 minutes late." The confident smile from his photo was gone, replaced by a look that sized me up and clearly found me lacking. His lip curled just a tiny bit. "Nice dress. Looks like it's from a department store." And there it was, red flag number 1. I should have turned around and walked right out. But I was raised to be polite, so I gave a shaky little smile and sat down. "Sorry about that. The subway was delayed." "The subway?" He let out this short, humorless laugh. "Right, I forget some people still use that." He tapped his designer watch. "Time is money. I took a car service. You should try it, if you can ever afford it." The conversation went straight downhill from there. Marcus was a masterclass in arrogance. He bragged about his portfolio of vague connections and deals that were always just about to close. He made fun of my job, calling architectural design a cute little hobby. I mean, what's the end game there? You draw some pretty pictures of buildings? So what? The real power is in finance, moving capital. That's where the real players are. I tried to defend my passion, to explain the art and science behind creating spaces for people, but it was like throwing pebbles against a wall. He wasn't listening. He was just waiting for his turn to talk. Every minute that ticked by, my hope shriveled up and died, replaced by the grim reality that this was the worst date of my entire life. I felt small, stupid, and painfully aware of my worn-out handbag on the chair next to me. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. "Well, well, well, look what we have here." I knew that voice. It was like nails on a chalkboard. I looked up, and my stomach plummeted to the floor. Standing there was Chloe, my office rival. Chloe with her perfect hair, a dress that cost more than my rent, and a smile that was pure poison. She was the queen of corporate sabotage, famous for stealing ideas and taking credit for other people's work, usually mine. She looked from me to Marcus and plastered on a look of fake surprise. "Marcus, what a coincidence! And with Ilara." She said my name like it was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Marcus's smirk was back, wider this time, and in that second, it all clicked. The look they shared, the timing, the evil little gleam in Chloe's eyes. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a setup, an ambush. "Chloe, darling," Marcus said, "join us. We were just discussing Ilara's career path." Chloe slid into the booth next to him, making the table feel claustrophobic. "Oh, I'm sure," purred Chloe, her eyes locked on me. "But let's be real, Marcus. Some people are just destined to stay in the minor leagues, drawing their little sketches while the rest of us close the real deals." My face was on fire. They were talking about me like I wasn't even there. I felt a lump forming in my throat, part anger, part shame. This wasn't a bad date. This was a coordinated attack, and Chloe knew exactly where to twist the knife. Marcus pulled out his phone. "You know, this is actually hilarious," he said, pointing the camera at me. "Small-town girl tries to play in the big city. It's a classic story of delusion." My eyes widened. He was filming me. My hands started to shake. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Creating content," Chloe chimed in, leaning into the shot with a triumphant grin. "A little cautionary tale for the company's social media, a reminder of what happens when you aim too high. Let's call it Anatomy of a Failure." The humiliation was a physical weight crushing me, stealing the air from my lungs. Tears were stinging my eyes, and I was fighting so hard to hold them back. I could feel other diners staring. I was trapped in a spotlight of shame while they dismantled my career and my dignity for fun. I wanted to scream, to throw my water in their smug faces, or just run. But I was frozen, pinned down by how cruel it all was. I came here with a fragile hope for a connection, and ended up the star of a public shaming. My dream of my own firm felt like a joke. In that moment, I'd never felt more alone or more worthless. On the edge of my vision, I was vaguely aware of a man sitting alone at a corner table, a still, silent figure in my nightmare, but I was too lost in my own misery to pay him any mind. Just as Chloe was suggesting a nasty hashtag for their video, a deep, calm voice cut through the air like ice. "I believe the lady has had enough." It wasn't loud, but it had a kind of authority that made Marcus and Chloe freeze. The phone in Marcus's hand lowered. We all turned to see the man from the corner table. He was standing now, and as he walked over, a bubble of silence and power seemed to move with him. He was tall, in a perfectly tailored but simple suit. No flashy labels, no giant watch. His presence was the statement. His dark hair was sharply cut, and his clear blue eyes were locked on Marcus with a terrifying intensity. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Marcus scoffed, trying to get his swagger back, but his voice wobbled. The man ignored him. His gaze shifted to Chloe, and his expression was one of bored disappointment. "You work for Sterling Archer, don't you?" he asked. The tone was conversational, but it sent a visible shiver down Chloe's spine. Sterling Archer. Our firm. Chloe went pale. Yes, I'm a senior project lead." "I see," the man said softly. He looked from her to Marcus. "And is this how senior project leads at my company represent themselves? By colluding with this," he gestured dismissively at Marcus, "to harass a colleague?" My breath caught. My company? Who on earth was this man? Marcus, trying to puff out his chest, said, "Listen, buddy, this is a private conversation, and I'm not just this. I'm Marcus Thorne. My father is with Thorne Capital. We're about to close a deal with Vance Holdings." The man's lips curved into a smile that had zero warmth. It was the smile of a lion that just heard a mouse roar. "Vance Holdings?" he repeated, his voice laced with chilling amusement. "Is that so? I must have missed that memo. In fact," he paused, pulling out his own phone and tapping the screen twice, "I'm quite certain we're not doing business with Thorne Capital, and we never will be." Marcus's face went from smug to ghost white in a second. "What did you just do?" "I just made sure Vance Holdings won't be taking any meetings with Thorne Capital. Not now, not ever," the man stated simply. He looked back at Chloe, his eyes like ice. "As for you, I suggest you leave, now, before you give me a reason to reevaluate the entire senior team at Sterling Archer tomorrow morning." The threat was unspoken, but absolute. Chloe looked like she'd seen a ghost. She grabbed her purse and practically ran from the table. Marcus stared, his mouth opening and closing like a fish, before he scrambled to follow her, his ego completely shattered. The silence they left was deafening. I just sat there, stunned, my brain trying to catch up. This stranger had just dismantled my tormentors with a few calm sentences and a phone call. He turned to me, and the cold authority in his eyes softened into something like concern. "Are you all right, miss?" I could only nod. The lump in my throat made it impossible to speak.
He gestured to the chair Marcus had just abandoned. "May I?" Again, I just nodded. He sat down and signaled a waiter with a flick of his wrist. "2 glasses of your best scotch, and please take this away," he pointed to my cold food, "and bring a fresh menu." He did it all with such quiet efficiency. When the waiter was gone, he looked at me. "My apologies for interfering. I don't normally, but their behavior was unacceptable." I finally found my voice, though it was shaky. "Thank you," I managed. You really didn't have to do that." "Yes," he said, his gaze steady. "I did. Decency required it." The scotch arrived, and he pushed a glass towards me. I took a sip, and the warmth spread through my chest, slowly unknotting the tight ball of panic inside me. We sat in a comfortable silence for a moment. He wasn't pushing for details or asking a million questions. He just let me breathe. It was the complete opposite of Marcus's constant bragging. This man was comfortable with silence. "You're a designer at Sterling Archer," he stated, not asked. "A junior designer," I corrected automatically, "though probably not for long after all this." "Why do you say that?" he asked. "Chloe will make my life miserable. She'll twist this, make it my fault, and that video, if it gets out," the shame washed over me again. "It won't," he said with absolute certainty, "and Chloe will have other things to worry about." I looked at him, confused by his confidence. "Who are you?" I finally asked. He gave a small, mysterious smile. "Let's just say I have an interest in the company and a strong dislike for bullies." He swirled his scotch. "Tell me about your designs, Alara." Hearing him say my name was a surprise. I hadn't told him, but the way he said it, with genuine interest, made me sit up a little straighter. No one had asked me about my designs with that kind of sincerity. Not my bosses, and definitely not Marcus. Hesitantly at first, but then with more confidence, I started talking. I told him about my dream of designing sustainable, community-focused buildings, about green roofs and shared public spaces, about architecture that helps people, not just profits. I told him how frustrated I was with the corporate world, where vision always lost out to the bottom line. I talked, and he just listened. He didn't interrupt, he didn't check his phone, he just listened. His blue eyes focused on me, asking thoughtful questions that showed he was actually hearing me. For the first time all night, for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like a junior designer or a failed date. I felt like a peer. This stranger saw the ambitious designer I wanted to be, not the humiliated woman from an hour ago. When I finally stopped, I blushed. "I'm so sorry," I said, embarrassed. "I've just been rambling on." "Not at all," he said, and his voice was so genuine it made my heart skip a beat. "On the contrary, I find your vision compelling." By the time he paid the bill and walked me outside, the nightmare of the date felt like a distant memory. The cold night air felt clean. "Thank you," I said again, as a cab pulled up. "The pleasure was all mine, Ilara." He didn't give me his name, and I didn't ask. It felt better that he was just this kind, handsome mystery man who had saved my night. As the taxi drove away, I watched him walk down the street and disappear. I leaned back in my seat, a strange warmth spreading through me. I didn't know who he was or if I'd ever see him again, but he had defended me, listened to my dreams, and made me feel seen. And that was a connection far more real than any blind date.
I walked into the office the next morning expecting the absolute worst. I was picturing Chloe lying in wait for me, whispers in the hallways, and a summons to my boss's office to get fired. But the office was weirdly quiet. Instead of the usual morning buzz, there were just tense, hushed conversations. People were gathered around computer screens, looking shocked. Chloe was nowhere. Her office was dark. My colleague Sarah rushed over. "Alara, have you seen the news?" she whispered, pointing to her screen. My jaw dropped. Vance Holdings, the name from the restaurant, the name that made Marcus turn white. It was the biggest, most powerful conglomerate in the city, run by a CEO who was famously private. And he had just bought our company. Overnight. "What happened?" I breathed.
"No one knows," Sarah whispered. "An email went out an hour ago. Emergency all-hands meeting at 10 in the main boardroom. Mandatory." The main boardroom was on the top floor, a place I had never even seen. A cold dread mixed with total confusion settled in my stomach. What was going on? And what did the stranger from last night have to do with any of this? At 10 o'clock, I walked into the huge boardroom. Everyone was there, whispering nervously. I found a seat in the back, trying to be invisible. A moment later, the doors at the front swung open. A stern-looking woman walked in, followed by the man from the restaurant. A gasp went through the room. My heart just stopped. Today, he wore a custom charcoal suit that screamed power. He walked to the head of the table with an easy confidence that told you he owned the very room he was standing in. The woman tapped her tablet. "Good morning. As of 6 a.m., Prestige Architects and all its subsidiaries are now under the complete ownership of Vance Holdings. All existing senior leadership has been suspended. For now, all operations will be overseen directly by our CEO." She gestured to the man beside her. "Allow me to introduce Mr. Damian Vance." The name hit me like a ton of bricks. Damian Vance, the reclusive titan of industry, the most powerful man in the city. The guy who bought me a scotch and listened to me ramble about green roofs was the legendary Damian Vance. It all clicked into place. The phone call, my company, his promise that Chloe would have other things to worry about. My world tilted. I felt dizzy. The CEO of the company I now worked for had seen me at my absolute lowest, most humiliating moment. Damian's eyes scanned the room. He started to speak, and it was the same calm voice, but now it filled the entire room, demanding total attention. He laid out his vision for the company: innovation, integrity, quality. As the meeting ended, Damian's assistant walked right up to my chair. "Ms. Alara, Mr. Vance would like a word with you, in his office." My blood ran cold. His office. This was it. I was so fired. With trembling legs, I followed her down the hall to a set of massive oak doors. She opened one, and I stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind me. I was alone in the most incredible office I'd ever seen. One whole wall was a window with a panoramic view of the city. On a drafting table in the corner weren't financial reports, but architectural sketches. The door opened and Damian Vance walked in. He'd taken off his suit jacket, and suddenly he looked like the man from the restaurant again. "Alara," he said softly, "please sit." I stayed standing. "Mr. Vance," I started, my voice shaking, "I am so sorry about last night. I had no idea who you were. I never would have—" "Damian," he corrected gently, "and you have nothing to apologize for. I should be the one apologizing for putting you in this position." He walked to the window. "I was at that restaurant to meet Marcus Torn. I make it a point to observe potential partners in an informal setting. It shows their true character. And as we both saw, his character was lacking." He took a step closer. "But the evening wasn't a waste, because I got to observe someone else. Someone who, in the face of cruelty, kept her dignity." My heart was pounding in my ears. "And later," he continued, his blue eyes locking with mine, "I talked with a woman who didn't know who I was and didn't want anything from me. A woman who spoke with more passion and vision about architecture than I have heard in 10 years. A woman who reminded me why I got into this business in the first place." He was standing right in front of me now. "I didn't acquire this company on a whim. I acquired it because I heard your vision, and I want to build it with you." I just stared at him, speechless. This couldn't be happening. "We are restructuring and relaunching as Prestige Ariane Design Studio. Ariane was my mother's name. She was an architect." He paused. "And I want you to be its head." The words just hung there. Head of the new studio. My studio. The dream I thought was decades away. "But why?" I whispered. "I'm a junior designer." "You are a visionary," he corrected, "and I am a good investor. I'm investing in you, Alara." You will have full creative control, an unlimited budget, and the complete backing of Vance Holdings to build the firm you described to me last night. It was a dream proposal, so far beyond my wildest fantasies it felt unreal, but the look in his eyes was steady, sincere, and filled with a belief in me that I was just starting to feel myself. He saw the shock on my face, and that little smile appeared. "That," he said, "is the professional part of the proposal." My breath caught. "The professional part?" "Yes," he said, his voice dropping, becoming more personal. "As for the other part, I was wondering if you would have dinner with me again tonight, properly this time. No rivals, no losers, and no secret identities." He took one more small step. "I want to get to know the woman who captivated me with her resilience and her brilliant spirit. So, Ilara, what do you say?" Tears welled in my eyes, not of humiliation, but of unbelievable joy. I looked at this incredible man, this CEO who saw my worth when I was at my absolute lowest, most humiliating moment, who was now offering me my dream, a new beginning. A slow smile spread across my face. "Yes," I said, my voice clear and strong. "I say yes." So, a night that started as a total disaster somehow became the start of a future I had only ever dreamed of. It just goes to show you, sometimes your worst moment can lead you straight to your greatest opportunity, and a blind date with a loser can miraculously turn into a dream proposal from a CEO. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more stories that will hopefully make your day.